Hi, it's Pastor Dan with our second week of our Lenten devotional series this year. Glad you're able to find some time to join with your family to go through the scripture reading. And the theme tonight is along the theme of called to a cross. Last week we talked about the cross of bearing, and Luke did a wonderful job on Sunday talking about the cross that Jesus bore, the one we could not. That heavy cross was the sins of the world that he took and atone for his blood sacrifice. But the cross we have is light, that it has no sin, that we get to move forward and live this life. But today's theme is on called to a cross, and it's the cross of idolatry. Now, the reading from Abraham shows how Abraham was called to, sacrifice his one and only son because God told him to. And it's a crazy story about, he really doesn't question it. Like the next day he goes out and he's preparing and he's going to do it. Now, this is completely opposite of what God had really directed him. This is Isaac. This is his son who's going to fulfill the covenant of being prosperous and making him a nation and a people and all those things. So how could he kill his only son and still do this? Well, Abraham has a crazy amount of faith. I mean, it says in Hebrews that he's like, you know what, if he does it, he can just bring him back to life and he can do what he wants. So I'm just going to go against all convention and my own thoughts of what's right and wrong, and I'm going to do what God tells me to. And I'm willing to sacrifice my one and only son because God tells me so. Now, obviously, God spares him and he provides a ram instead. And this points directly forward to Jesus. And this points directly towards, his one and only son, sacrificing him. He doesn't ask Abraham to do that because that sacrifice doesn't atone for other sins. The model Abraham gives us is the model of faith, trusting in God and his word. Above all things, no idols. An idol simply is just something we hold above God. And we have lots of things in this world that are competing for our attention, competing for our what we call our first commandment, to love God above all things, to fear and love and trust in God above all things. And I know I have a ton of things that I have to be warned against to say, am I holding that above God? And that's one reason I wore my Iowa State shirt. The Hawkeye fans might have theirs too. So being a fan could be an idol. Am I willing to hold this above other things? And I've got pictures of my family here. These are good things. Iowa State, my family. I love basketball. I love golf, and all of these activities and things I do are good things from God. But I have to keep them in the proper order. God and his word is first, and everything else comes after that. And if you keep that order in your life, things just kind of fall into place. But this is why none of us can actually keep that first commandment perfectly. We are bent to our own ways. We're bent to idolatry. But we have to recognize this. Because once we recognize this, it frees us to reprioritize our lives towards God and his ways, to do what he tells us to do. And the great thing about Abraham and us, the thing that saves Abraham and us, is faith. And that is a gift from God. It doesn't come from us. He has given you faith. And during the season of Lent is a time we should intentionally pray for and think about strong faith. How do I strengthen my faith? How do I reprioritize my life to put God and his word above all the other things that are good in our lives? So it's not that we're going to give away good things for bad. We're giving away maybe some good things for greater things, God things. And this is what God's love looks like. It's this unbelievable willingness to sacrifice his one and only son, not for his own benefit, but for our benefit. He's willing to give this thing away, his son, to gain this other thing called his people. And it shows you how high a value God has on us, that he's willing to die for us. And then the beautiful resurrection that comes after that is a gift also from God. It shows you how we are the pinnacle of creation, that God did want to be in relationship with us. And the promise and the covenant he made with Abraham was fulfilled in you and in me. We are that promised people, that innumerable number. And we still get to proclaim the wonderful faith of Abraham that was given to him, and the faith that was given to us. But I encourage you this Lenten season to, take some time, take stock of your life, and look for things that may be idols. Look for things that you may want to reprioritize your time. And make sure you're giving time to God. And know what? If those things get removed, if someday I lose my family, or Iowa State doesn't go to a bowl game like usual, or I can't run anymore, or I lose my health, or whatever, those are usually the times when you get the check. Am I really holding God and His Word above all things? Is Jesus sufficient? And I pray that the faith that you have, that the Spirit who lives in you abides in you, that His Word would strengthen you and preserve you in that one true faith, and that no matter what trials come or what idols are competing for your attention, that you would always turn towards God, His truth, and rely on His promises. And then that's the way it flows. So I pray for you that this devotion has been good, and that the questions that follow this, dig deep into those. Be critical of your life and examine that life. And know that God does not demand sacrifice anymore. In Hosea 6:6, He talks about, I do not demand sacrifice. He says, He wants knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. You have the knowledge of God. You have everything you need more in Jesus. So God bless you this Lenten service season, and we'll see you next week.